Let's jump into this talking about Alex Leatherwood's 2020 numbers. This is when he was in college. You look at this stuff, these are PFF grades, and this is something that does translate pretty well to the next level. If you're good at this stuff, you're probably going to be good at the next level. If you're not so good, probably not going to be so good at the NFL level. You see Leatherwood's numbers, these are not spectacular numbers for a first round pick. The run blocking grade, you'd ideally like that to be over 90, but that's okay. But a pass block grade of 73.4 is not very good. And especially, you look at the bottom, true pass set, pass block grade, it's below 70, which is just an actively bad number. When teams knew that it was time to rush the passer, and it was just a straight up, hey, I have to pass block, he didn't do very good. I mean, again, a fine college number, but not for a first round pick. However, on the consensus big board, he was still like a solid prospect. Okay, he wasn't where he got drafted. We all know the Raiders sort of reached on him compared to the consensus draft board, but he was, 43rd overall on the consensus draft board. That's a high second round pick. So why was he considered still a decent prospect if his, advanced statistics weren't so great? And part of that, of course, is people don't pay attention as much to advanced statistics as they should. But to me, the real reason is, well, we knew he was a project. We knew coming in he probably wouldn't have the best first season. And let's start off with this play to kind of show some of those struggles. He's going to be going up one-on-one against TJ Watt. I mean, yeah, welcome to the NFL. Game 2 of your NFL career, you're getting asked to block TJ Watt one-on-one, which is just a tough situation to put him in regardless. In the 3 games that he played right tackle for this first season, I thought he was not great, but not a disaster in 2 of them. This was the one game he was a disaster in, but part of it is you're trying to block TJ Watt. And it's really going to be less about him getting beat, but I think this can kind of show how he got beat and what he has to do to improve if he's going to be a solid player in 2022. Look at how right when this play begins, you see how Watt just kind of slaps down Leatherwood's right hand. I always talk about, if you're a right tackle, that right arm is so important. Okay, I'm saying I always talk about it as if I invented it or something. I mean, everyone always talks about it. That's what's so important with these types of plays. And when you're going up against an elite technician in TJ Watt, he's going to be able to take advantage of any flaw that you have. But you see his right arm is just not even touching Watt right here, and that was one of his biggest concerns coming out of college, did not have great hands, and you knew you were going to have to coach that up. As you see, Watt is able to get through, ball was thrown quickly, so it didn't hurt them, but that's just kind of a great glimpse into, the ways that he can be taken advantage of and what he's going to have to do if he is going to succeed at the NFL level. You also have something like this, where what's going to happen here is that what he is doing is, again, it's going to be a one-on-one matchup against TJ Watt, which is, again, cannot understate this. It's a very difficult situation for him. Look at how right when this play begins. So right here, Watt's about to initiate the contact, but you see Leatherwood kind of has his hand, up, and I just don't know exactly how he's planning on getting at the hand placement that he wants. And again, it's hard. It's TJ Watt. I get it, but this is just way too easy for Watt. Watch him duck underneath and really just run right by. Barely gets touched and gets to Derek Carr for a sack and a fumble right there. So that's not a great play from Alex Leatherwood. There's no denying that. And the reality is, you don't have time to just let him have a full season to learn this stuff because the Raiders made the playoffs last year. They're trying to be competitive now. They can't just let him go out there and completely, focus on coaching him up. This is why, if the NFL had a minor league system like other sports do, this would be a great scenario to just put him in the minors and let him play there for a while and get himself coached up against better competition and kind of learn the technique. But, here you just don't have time to do that. And I also thought something like this is interesting because one of the things about Leatherwood, so he's going to be going up in a one-on-one matchup here. There's a couple tight ends on that side of the field, but it's still going to be a one-on-one matchup. Neither one of those are helping him out. And one of the things that's interesting about Leatherwood is kind of one of his selling points was how good of an athlete he is, which he is. There's really no denying that. Definitely a very good athlete. But I still feel like sometimes he can just be maybe a bit passive, I guess is maybe the word. And this is kind of an example of it. As you see right when this play begins, you look right here. And so for Leatherwood, he has his, I just feel like he could have stepped out further more to go out and block 91 for Miami. That's Emmanuel Ogbah, who is, no slouch in his own right? Very good player. But I feel like Leatherwood is kind of just staying a little bit too close and isn't going out to meet Ogbah in any way. And again, someone who is a real X's and O's guy for the offensive line can really probably explain this better than I can. But you're putting yourself in a situation here where, again, you have to get that right hand placement the way you want perfectly, or this just isn't going to work out. And he's not really helping himself out in any way by doing that. Watch how, again, Ogba doesn't really have to try there to generate a pressure. And if that play lasts a half second longer, it could have been really bad. It could have been a strip sack or something like that. So you really do have to be careful. And these are just kind of the things where you just see him just kind of not really get his hands where you want them to be. And it's constantly, tough for him. Something like this is another example. This is going to be him at guard. I still don't think the Raiders fully know if they want him as a guard or a tackle here, but they put him in guard for most of last season, which kind of felt weird. You drafted a tackle and moved him to guard like 3 weeks in, but regardless, I also got it given the way that, you can't have him, at the tackle when you're trying to make the playoffs and he's not playing well. But anyways, he's going up one-on-one against Chris Jones, and again, we're talking going up against really good players, right? Every play I've shown is him going up against a Pro Bowl caliber player, if not an All-Pro caliber player. And even that might feel like a little bit of, not explaining how good some of these guys are. Like TJ Watt feels like he's better than just an All-Pro guy. He was Defensive Player of the Year. But anyways, watch how right when this play begins, you see how Jones is able to just kind of grab on to Leatherwood's wrist right there. So again, Leatherwood can't get the hand placement he wants. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how good of an athlete you are. If you're not getting the hand placement you want, you're probably not going to be able to have success. And as you see, Jones does get through, and he is able to get to Carr for the sack. So the nice thing is that this does feel like things you can improve upon, right? He's not just getting, overpowered. He's not just having guys blow by him. But the downside is, you still have to fix that, because until you fix that, you're just not a good player. You have to fix these things. So what do we make of all of this? I think the first thing is that, okay, this is kind of who we knew Alex Leatherwood was. And just because he got drafted earlier by the Raiders doesn't now make him a better prospect. He is who the consensus thought he was, as most players are when they get reached on. That's just what the data suggests. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is okay, well, you drafted a project a little bit too early. That doesn't mean you just get rid of them. That doesn't mean that they're a bad asset. And in fact, he still is someone who can be successful if you give him time. It might not even be next year, but if you give him time, you can, eventually get him into a position where he can play well. Again, this is part of why the draft pick itself didn't make a ton of sense, is because you are kind of trying to win now. Why make this selection? But there are things you can improve upon. Every offensive line coach believes that they can coach up an Alex Leatherwood. We'll see if the Raiders can do it. Would I bet on it? Yeah, I think he'll get better. Do I think he'll ever be a star? Probably not. That's why I wouldn't have made the selection, but that doesn't mean that he's a trash player either. Again, he was a fine second-round candidate. Maybe even at the end of the first round, it wouldn't have been that crazy. So the prospect itself, there still is hope for Leatherwood. I don't think that it's time to just move off of him by any means. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on Alex Leatherwood's potential next year and the following years? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.